It's really wild to think that we are getting into the last couple of weeks of 2025. That's just, it's not even wrong to say, but it's a point in time that I guess it just really snuck up on all of us. So now the conversations around what exactly the game of the year is going to be is starting to take shape. And well, I mean, at the top of that chart, depending on how Hades 2 is categorized, because it's still, I think, in early access, so that could be on some people's list. But outside of that, just simply based on Metacritic scores, it has been an exceptionally good year for indie titles with, Expedition 33, Blueprints, Silksong, obviously. But for the most part, all of those games, they kind of came out in the first half of the year, so recency bias, especially when it comes to certain people's perspective on Game of the Year awards, isn't really going to be a factor. But one game that could end up getting nominations, which is, it was quite likely ahead of its release, but now that it is out for the public to experience, Ghost of Yotei, it's getting a decent reaction, all things considered. 87 on Metacritic, that's pretty good. It doesn't necessarily tell the entire tale, but when you factor in other ratings as well, you got an 8 on IGN audience rating over on Google. I'm not entirely sure how well that aggregates or how that is representative. You got, 895 ratings, you got a bunch of 5s, you got a bunch of 1s, and not too much in the middle. And because it's a Sony exclusive, we don't have any equivalent to Steam charts that are out there. We're going to have to wait for a little while before we get any kind of digital sales data, any sort of PSN numbers. We're still a couple of weeks out from that, but all I've seen so far is rumors. It's selling even better than Ghost of Tsushima did in its first week of release. Well, number one, you would anticipate that for a sequel of a much beloved game. And on top of that, that's also something we've seen before with Horizon Forbidden West and The Last of Us Part 2. It's just unfortunate that we didn't get any follow-up sales data on either of those titles. But perhaps people are just simply waiting to see if this is going to be worthwhile, because even though it's a game that, after its announcement, I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, separating the art from the artist, especially in regards to the lead actress, who is a total nut job, but Sucker Punch has a pretty good history of putting out very good games. And so I was approaching this with a don't judge a book by its cover approach. But then you get a look inside the book and who the author of it was, or at least one of the authors that are out there, and they're out there celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, taking an actively antagonistic approach to the audience. And it's like, yeah, cool, man, part and parcel of modern AAA game development. I'll just go ahead and sit this one out. But now, after 15 minutes of fame is up, what was her name? Drew Harrison, former artist on Ghost of Yotei and Ghost of Tsushima as well, who was more than happy. Who, hell, even said that she would double, triple, go 100 times harder on the stuff she was saying in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting. Now, all of a sudden, as it turns out, my joke didn't make the game do any worse. My firing didn't make the game do any better. So really the only thing that harassment campaign succeeded in was sucking all of the joy out of my life. So I guess that's a W. Yeah, make it all about you. That's exactly what we want to see. But I don't necessarily know where you're getting the idea that your firing didn't make the game do any better. Did it make it do any worse? Because there was supposed to be also not just a big right-wing boycotting campaign, but because, Sucker Punch was so openly collaborating with fascists, there was this big left-wing boycott campaign. So I'll be interested, okay? I'll be interested to see what the sales data, what the player counts look like when we get this. But just simply in a vacuum, I've talked about watching some of the trailers. We showed one of them, and some of it looks impressive. It's mostly just been a bunch of cinematics, but now the people are hands-on with the product. This is what you're getting. You're getting hot fish cooking action. Oh my god, yeah, Ghost of Yotei is a 10 out of 10. I'm cooking this fish using my DualSense controller. Cool, man. It's a gimmick on a gimmick, moving it across the fire to cook different spots and flipping it so it doesn't burn. I mean, yeah, cool. I played Final Fantasy 15 and I'm replaying it regrettably. And the very, very extensive cooking mechanics. You know what other game last year had a very extensive cooking mechanic and fun mini game as well? Star Wars Outlaws. Tell me how well that's working out for you. But, going back to what IGN had to say about this, they gave it an 8 out of 10, which is, 1 point better than Outlaws, but then also 1 point worse than Dragon Age the Veilguard, so I don't even know what that means at this point in time, but it ended up inspiring one of the authors over there, okay? I'm getting bored of every PlayStation game telling the same story. Fucking oof, man. Tell me your game sucks without telling me your game sucks. This is care of Simon Carty. I'm a huge fan of PlayStation's first-party offerings. They've come to embody the sort of cinematic adventures I've always looked for when I'm sitting down with a controller in my hand, feeling the genuine blockbuster events meant to be savored. Oh my god. Yeah, that was a novel approach back in the mid to late PlayStation 3 era, but it's just been trite. The trope of the third-person action-adventure Sony game, well, it's become a meme for a reason. But where in the past this brand of glossy storytelling felt like new ground being trodden, I can't help but feel that recently it's become the well-worn road. It's not just that all of PlayStation's major releases adhere to the now trademark third-person cinematic stylings. The stable of developers has become seemingly obsessed with a story that explores the exact same themes, grief and revenge. And I'm starting to get tired of it. Oh shit, and this is somebody who proudly announces that they're on Blue Sky. Sucks to suck, I guess. As a rule, these games are all impeccably well made. That's why we gave it an 8 out of 10, which is, in IGN land, something akin to shit. But I'm starting to miss the era of PlayStation's range that felt wider, and things were a little more fun. Well, here's the thing, man. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because these studios get paid, and they get they get bonuses based on the performance in the review sites. Okay, what was it? Obsidian, based on the Metacritic score for Fallout New Vegas, because it got a 76 or something like that. I think it failed to get 80 on Metacritic, so their studio missed out on a gigantic bonus because of that. And because, like you said, I love these third-person Sony PlayStation exclusives, just how sleek and polished that they feel. That's why you keep on getting those games, because they appeal to your childlike sensibilities, where the nice looking thing is obviously a good thing because my eyes wouldn't lie to me. That's why you keep on getting the same slop over and over again. And if this is all I'm hearing coming out of Ghosts of Yotei, that it's more of the same and actually is making me rethink my approach to AAA gaming, the medium in this case is definitely the message. Ghosts of Yotei is probably not going to end up doing all that well, and the conversations around this could potentially end up being a little bit more honest, because it's got really nothing at all to do with a boycott from either side, and it has more to do with the overall health of the gaming industry. And I think that is far more productive form of criticism than finger pointing could ever be. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.